And it's a beautiful thing too. Hold up. Yay.
Impact Wrestling had their go-home show for Bound for Glory 2021 on October the 21st, 2021. So let's talk about it. I'm going to be very swift in this review. In fact, I'm going to skip things that do not matter simply because I do not have a lot of time. So I apologize for anybody who's looking for some type of in-depth conversation about Impact. I'm only going to stick to the juicier parts of the show. So I really liked. So let's get into it. The first match, LP and Hikuleo, aka the Bullet Club, they had a draw with Finjuice where it was a double pin. Of course, this makes no sense. They were arguing. Scott D'Amore, if I remember correctly, I'm not looking at my notes, I believe he made a triple threat match with the Good Brothers. But I think that makes sense because Chris Bay is in the Bullet Club and so is Hikuleo. So yeah, I think it's a triple threat match. This might be the first time where I really don't care enough to go and look, but I think that's what happened. But I really was interested in let's go through most of the matches, because there was another triple threat tag team match with this stupid digital belt that they're coming up with. The Jordan Grace Follow Bob versus Chelsea Green and Crazy Steve versus John Skyler and Tennille Dashwood. John Skyler and Tennille Dashwood win this match. I have no idea what this digital media title is supposed to be, nor do I give a shit. And I don't think anybody does. It's just stupid. It's a stupid belt. Savannah Evans lost to Mickie James in the Pick Your Poison match. Afterwards, Mickie was jumped by Matthew Raywalt, who clotheslined Mickie and knocked her down. I believe Scott D'Amore banned him from ringside. If he shows up, they're both going to be suspended forever. Alex Zane lost to Trey Miguel, and those were all of the matches. So let's get into the angles, and I think the angles were probably the best part to me, because I really enjoyed these Josh Alexander story, and I enjoyed the Violin by Design war for Rhino's soul. I thought, that was pretty cool. So Josh Alexander, they do this vignette where he tells his life story. He has to sit down. It's like 3 minutes, maybe 4. And he's telling his life story about how wrestling saved him. He was a child of divorce, poor, always getting bullied, didn't really know what $1 was worth because he had no work ethic. He had no life. He had nothing. And what happens is he is forced to struggle, in his life. He's forced to struggle. He finds a trade. He's fixing tires on cars on the side of the road. And it was the only job he could do while also being a pro wrestler. So he decides to do that. And on weekends, he's training and he's, building up his reputation as a pro wrestler. And this is all very cool stuff. It's interspersed with this. It's home videos of Josh Alexander. I'm with somebody, I think it's probably a family member, probably a friend, and they're basically wrestling. You see this kind of stuff all the time when they do the Madream storylines. Then he says, like, hey, I broke my neck, had to have a fusion, had 2 severe neck injuries, thought he had to retire, but the broken neck only forced him to change his style up. Now he used to be so focused on matches and match quality and being the best wrestler. He then realized he had to work on his look, had to work on his presentation, he had to work on his characters, he had to work on everything. And the neck injury motivated him to become a complete package. And I find that to be quite honest, I think he's still under construction as far did this neck injury happen last year? Because, you still don't really have much of a personality. But it's a good idea to work to try to be as complete as you possibly can. And when you have those neck injuries and stuff like that, it can be incredibly limiting. So he says after he injured his neck, in 2016, he was shuffling back and forth to the United States to wrestle in the independents because, the United States is where the independents really thrived. He said he got busted. He almost got banned from the country. So he decided to just basically not press his luck. and to work in Canada. And even though the Canadian independents weren't much, it was good for him to get out there and build his name up. He, of course, talked about working for Destiny Wrestling when he became their world champion. And this is where he met Scott D'Amore, who signed him to Impact. Now, they did skip his entire career with the North. They skipped all of that, which, probably made a lot of sense in the long term, considering, what's the name isn't there anymore, Ethan Page. And also, you don't want to tell the guy's entire life story. But he did say that he was interested in the X division because it reminded him of WCW's Cruiserweight division, where, it was a bunch of great wrestlers. And even though he knew that matches weren't the be all end all, and he says, hey, I used to get made fun of for it. People used to call me out for it, but I still believe that match quality matters. And that's where he saw the great match quality in TNA was in the X division. So being X division champion was a goal of his. And so he achieved that goal. And now it's time to go to the next level to be the world heavyweight champion. Now, at the end of the show, they do the final promo, the final sell, the hard sell for Josh Alexander versus Christian. And he comes out, he kind of reiterates a lot of what he said before but he mixes in this new concept. We talked about taking risks, that, option C was a risk. And even though he knew that, he says, hey, I've been taking risks all this time. Like, I thought my career was over. I have to show my kids, I have to show, everybody who believes in me that I'm willing to take those risks because there are great rewards to those risks. He gets into a little thing with Christian. Christian says to him, you're not only not the best wrestler from Canada, you're not even the best wrestler in this ring right now, and at Bound for Glory, you're going to be very disappointed as I go home as the world heavyweight champion, #and still. Josh Alexander, for some reason, this really pissed him off. This really upset him. So he says, if you think pissing me off is going to be a good plan, well, let me show you. And they start fighting. And then security pulls them apart. And it's led to believe that it's a wild brawl with tons of heat between the two guys. Where it's like, Christian didn't really do anything. Like, what is he supposed to say? Like, Josh Alexander's absolutely better than all of the wrestlers from Canada. Like, is that what he's supposed to say? It's like, no, of course he's going to say you're not the best wrestler from Canada. Of course he's going to say you're not the best wrestler in this ring because you're not the world champion, never have been. So it's kind of obvious to me. But, this is the babyface versus babyface aspect of it. My thing is, Christian is on Impact. He has not appeared on, I don't think, he's probably made only like 2 or 3 appearances on AEW since All Out. He hasn't made that many appearances. They could have afforded to turn him heel just for Impact, where he could, talk that shit and really grind down Alexander, because Alexander needs to win the title. To be quite honest, Christian doesn't need it. Impact might need Christian as the champion because who knows what the hell would happen when Christian loses the title, because Impact's viewership is in the toilet. It is a toilet, okay? It is not good. But it's hard to tell because, to be quite honest, Impact's ratings were a lot higher when Impact guys were the champions. The idea of, using AEW to boost Impact, what it really did was make people not care about Impact, So a lot of fans left. A lot of fans just went away, decided they're not going to watch this show. Even if they like the guys who are there and they like the wrestlers, Impact just being the land of misfit toys, where there's a bunch of New Japan guys and AAA guys and AEW guys coming in, beating up all the Impact guys. People are just kind of like, I don't care. So maybe the cure to their viewership woes and demographic woes too, since everybody likes to talk about my demos. Their demographics is awful. It's like 0.0 something. In any event, if there's any cure to this, and that cure is getting the title off of an AEW guy and making Impact whole again, it's worth trying. But I do fear that somebody is going to be like, Josh Alexander, and then it's going to get worse. So I don't know what they can do. Impact is really in a bind right now. They need to write better TV, of course, but they're in a really difficult situation where they have prostrated themselves on the altar of AEW, and now everybody looks at them as a little sister promotion and not as the power that it used to be. It is now in the back pocket of AEW, and it's very, people don't care anymore. It's hard to even generate enough conversation around Impact to get people to be mad at it or excited to see it or anything. A bunch of people are going to watch Bound for Glory, and I'm going to say this now. A bunch of people are going to watch Bound for Glory as if they've been watching the show the entire time. They haven't been, because I never see them tweeting about it. Impact very rarely, if never, trends on Twitter during the regular show. The pay-per-views do trend because, people are watching the show, usually illegally, but they're watching the show. But their weekly TVs, no. Weekly TVs, scarce. A very, very, very hardcore, the hardest of the hardcores like myself watch that show weekly. And I think everybody knows it. I think you have to be the hardest of the hardcore to watch Impact weekly, and especially to do a review of it, to talk about it, to tweet about it, tell anybody to watch it or not. You have to be the hardest of the hardcores. But it is what it is. But let's get to the thing that I really wanted to talk about on this show. The only reason probably I even did a review is the tug of war for Rhino's soul. So Heath is in the ring. Rhino was in the ring first. It looked like he had something to say. Heath came out. Then Heath, laid this incredible emotional thing on Rhino about, hey, it's been a long time. Where you been? Saying it says, hey, I love Rhino. My family, I miss Rhino. My family misses you. My daughters, they miss Uncle Rhino. And it was good. Like, it was really good. And then you see Rhino kind of smile a little bit. It was a great storytelling device, using his smile like, I am Uncle Rhino. And then here comes Violin by Design. So Violin by Design comes out there, and Eric Young is absolutely barking that, of course, you can't leave Violin by Design. You made a vow to Violin by Design that this is your family now. Say, I opened your eyes. I made you who you are. I brought you back to your purest form. And Heath is literally like, don't listen to him. Listen to the people. And Eric Young's like, no, you listen to me. And they go back and forth. And then Diener just says, screw it. And he pops Heath. So Diener and Doring jump Heath right in front of Rhino. Rhino is just watching these guys beat up Heath. They're pummeling them, by the way. And then the crowd is like, Rhino, Rhino, Rhino. Rhino pulls Diener off, kind of tosses him to the side. And everybody is just watching, like, okay, is Rhino going to take his shot at Eric Young? And he's staring at Eric Young, and Eric Young tells him to gore Heath, tear him in half, rip him in half, go, do it now, do it. And Rhino considers doing it for a moment, but instead just leaves the ring. And as he leaves the ring, he starts to fight back on Diener, and then they jump him again. They jump him, beat him up, drape him over the second rope, and then lay the flag over him. It was an awesome segment. It was highly emotional. I like this idea of, he's trying to bring an intervention to the brainwashed Rhino. And it makes sense. You have to understand the story of these characters. And since I do, because I was a fan of the Rhino Heath pairing when they were put together on SmackDown in 2016, I believe it was. I was a fan of it then. So this whole thing is building off of that. What the power of their friendship, how strong really is their friendship. And this is how you do a storyline that I think is similar to the RK Bro. What they've been trying to do is, instead of turning Heath into a lapdog, he represents a different side of Rhino, and when you look at that from that perspective, you see Rhino split into two people. What he has been for most of his career, which is a guy with no personality, but all the physical tools. He was essentially, again, the monster Rhino, or was it the beast, the machine, or some shit. the whatever what the fuck they call them. It'll come to me eventually. But the man Beast Rhino, they would have him come out there and he wouldn't say much, he wouldn't do much. He had no real character, no real personality. But he was a physical presence. He was very strong, very compact. He could really move you if he wanted to. And that was young Rhino. That was young, powerful, strong Rhino. But he had no real success. I think, he did in TNA in the early days. But even then, it was short lived. Like, he was world champion for like 3 days. I think it was technically a week because they go to the next taping, when it becomes official. I think he was champion for like 3 days during the TNA days. And that was it. Like, that was the height of his career. And it didn't last very long. But when you look at it from that perspective, what did he really achieve as the man beast? He was NWA world champion. He was ECW world champion, but ECW went out of business while he was the world champion. So his success was very minimal. But it is a part of Rhino that people tend to like. And then Heath represents fun-loving Rhino, the fat dude who was, I wouldn't call him fat, but the kind of slob who was eating Cheetos or Doritos or whatever and getting them all over his shirt. The guy who was doing comedy and trying to show his personality and being friendly and being open and doing a lot of different things later in his career when the physical strength began to kind of go away and he didn't have a reputation anymore. He wasn't an intimidator anymore. He became more of a character. He became more of a personality. He became more of a jovial promo guy. He liked talking. He liked hanging out with Heath. He liked, being a fan favorite. He enjoyed all that stuff. And that's the war going on right here, where Heath is like, and I think the smile really represents that, because it's almost like that Shawn Michaels thing where you say, hey, I lost my smile. But Heath makes Rhino smile, like that's his boy, that's his friend. And then the smile went away as soon as Violin by Design came back out there, because that represents who he really is. The man beast from the ECW days, who never smiled, never laughed, never had a personality whatsoever, was just a killing machine. Go, go, go. And now he's torn in between who he really wants to be, who he really is, who he is then or who he is now. Right? And he found success, a certain measure of success as a member of Violin by Design. They were the tag team champions. But, he also could have been tag team champions with Heath. So it's like it's kind of equal there. He's not a young man anymore, so his days as world champion is probably behind him. But, now does he want to try to relive his glory days as being the man beast? Or does he want to be Uncle Rhino? And I love this dichotomy that they got going here. And I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it seems to me that they are telling the best story right now when it comes to television characters with this right here. This is probably some of the best stuff in wrestling right now. And nobody's talking about it, and nobody's watching it, and nobody cares, which is really unfortunate. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question as if